How do you know it's on because of that?
Yeah, and this will blink.
Okay.
If you want to just leave this on for the whole
He doesn't like it.
Yeah, she's probably about to start.
Are we ready to go, Zach?
We are.
Yeah? Okay. All right. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you all. My name is Claire Mallard-Feldman. I am the director of the Center for International Education. I'm also a professor of French who is losing her voice, so I beg for your forgiveness if I cannot speak too loud right now. This is this time of the academic year that I love the most, and it is particularly the day that I love the most. That's the day when we celebrate our international affairs dual majors and celebrate their achievements. So I am very happy to be here, and I want to congratulate all the IA students in this class for their achievement. Pretty soon you will walk out of UNH with a wonderful dual major in your pocket, and I salute you all. So you can be proud of yourselves, and you can also be grateful to your parents and your friends who are all here to celebrate you, because I'm sure at some level you owe it to them as well. So I salute parents and friends as well. I was chairing moderating a session this morning, and one more year, I was thinking how wonderful it is to see those young men and women, after 4 years of training at the higher education level, to see how confident they are, how much they know, how clearly they can present their ideas, their theories, their themes, and how passionate they are about what they speak about. So that is so rewarding, and I want it to last forever. So it was a wonderful session. I thank all the panelists. You are 49 of you this year, 49 graduates, and you come from all the disciplines, and you have studied hard in all kinds of majors. The most obvious, the languages, political science, psychology, sociology, but also some of you are dual majors in finance, environmental resources, conservation, business administration, civil engineer. You are from all the boards of the campus. You come from all the colleges. You immersed yourselves in the study of critical languages. Some of you studied Arabic, Chinese, Japanese, and you have traveled everywhere in the world. Of course, a mosaic of European countries. Those are predictable. But also some of you went to Ghana, Madagascar, Jordan, Peru, Chile. As ambassadors of the US, of the state of New Hampshire, and of UNH, you played an important role abroad, and you came back for the most part transformed, matured, and with a much better understanding of the global connections between nations of the world. This is quite an achievement. I want to turn now to faculty and staff members who also have to be thanked, because without them, you wouldn't be here either. And first of all, I would like to thank Professor Molly Wallace, who is a Hood House lecturer. She's been teaching most of the IA courses since she arrived in September, at the beginning of this academic year. And we are very fortunate to have her at UNH. She's one of the pillars of this program, and we're so grateful to her for all the work she's done this year. Thank you, Molly. We also have another IA faculty member, Jennifer Puranage, who is teaching the IA 401 science module, who has been a wonderful addition to our team, and we're very, very grateful to you, Jennifer. Thank you. Also, all of the CIE staff, so maybe you want to hold your applause until we go through their names. We have Sarah Miller, Wen Hu, unfortunately, is on vacation today, but she's been a very big team member. Beth Lynch, I don't know where she is. Greg Orifici, Leo Meyer, Mindy McMahon, and I have a special thank for Mindy McMahon because she is the mistress of ceremony and she keeps all on our toes and does a wonderful job of organizing an event like today. I don't want to forget Catherine Dauteuil, who is a very dedicated and knowledgeable IA advisor, and she's so well grounded in the IA program, but she's part of that backbone of the IA dual major. Thank you, Catherine. And finally, also my gratitude to a faithful member of the University Committee on International Studies and a CIE friend, Professor Chris Reardon, who is always looming somewhere in the IA program. We had the quick visit of Ben Cole this morning, but I think he is not with us today, but I want to acknowledge him. He was the past Hood House lecturer. Thank you all for your contributions. Thank you all for making the IA dual major the strong and vibrant program that it is. You're very lucky students to have such a dedicated team of faculty members and staff. So please, now you can give them a round of applause. So now it is time, and also my very great pleasure to introduce today's keynote speaker, Professor Tom Haines, who is a former travel reporter for the Boston Globe and a newcomer in the English department here at UNH, and a wonderful gift to the journalism program. You will find a short bio of him in your program, so I'm not going to use up his speech time to tell you who he is. You can find out on your own. But just be prepared for a fantastic journey through the magic of words, the power of pictures, and the weight of his experience through countless travels around the globe. I cannot think of a more appropriate person to address a graduating class of international affairs dual majors who have themselves traveled quite a bit. So now, without further ado, please welcome Professor Tom Haines.
Thank you, Claire. It is great to be here today. I want to talk to you today about taking a journey. So we'll begin with a new slide. There will be only 3 or 4 slides. Consider these 2 guys, native Chukchi seal hunters. It's 4 a.m. on an April morning on the Russian side of the Bering Strait, and the hunters are 1/4 mile offshore at the very edge of a shelf of ice. The guy in the boat, 24-year-old Stanislav Vuk, has just shot a seal. You can see it sort of floating there, a dot in the distance. And Stanislav's partner will help send him off. It may seem that they are in a precarious place, poised for what could be a trying trip. But the 2 men are ready, skilled and experienced. They grew up near the ice. You see the stick there behind the hunter's foot. They had used that stick, poking and prodding as they neared the edge, to find the firmest place for departure. It was a risk they had to take. The hunters and their families depended on the meat from that seal for their lives, which still rely to great degree on subsistence hunting. I mention these men and their journey here on this joyful day of celebration for all that you have accomplished during your time at UNH, to encourage you to embark now on great journeys of your own. Like these hunters, you too are as prepared as you can be. You came into college with curiosity and care, adding to the responsibilities of your other majors, whether in economics or engineering, for example, psychology or political science, to enjoy an exploration of how the world works. As an international affairs dual major, you studied the lay of the land, the tensions of regional struggle and globalization, the change of physical environment, the historical course of cultures, and more. You experience the world's richness through studying abroad. You are ready. And I urge you now to move to the figurative ice edge of graduation with gusto and launch into this wider world. A perilous journey? Maybe. A crucial one? Definitely. Because as the hunters depend on that seal, we as individuals rely more than ever on one another. Never before has the world been so interconnected. Never before have the decisions we make individually in our homes and cities, states and nations, these decisions you make and will make, had such potential for impact on one another. As a reporter at the Boston Globe, I stood on that ice edge with the hunters on that April morning. Estra Suarez, a native of Panama and a photographer who started at the newspaper the same week that I did in 2002, took the photo. Together, Estras and I had the good fortune to report in more than 30 countries, from Istanbul to Shanghai, from the desert of Sudan to the jungle of Brazil. We shared meals with date farmers and wandered the seething streets of Caracas with artists turned political activists. I've talked with villagers edging toward starvation in Ethiopia and college students in Mexico plotting a route northward to the United States. I marched with Gandhi's great-grandson toward the salt flats of the Arabian Sea, meeting Indians of low castes and high in a country still struggling to embrace the Mahatma's ideals. And in southern Spain, I met a Moroccan immigrant in Granada who was a leader in the local Islamic community. When I told him I was writing about the legacy of Islam in the Iberian Peninsula, he grew angry. "We are not monkeys in a zoo, monkeys here, tigers there," he told me. And he is right. While we are races and cultures, nations and states, religions and sects, we are at our core individual people together on this planet. This is our time. Now in 2012, we must all find a way to divide resources, to find security, to improve individual health, to keep economic markets vibrant, to weather climatic change, and if I have one thing to impress upon you from my experiences around the world, it is the need for people like you who wonder at and answer the questions of our international lives. So, as you balance the exhaustion of one last finals period at UNH, I urge you, commit to deepening your engagement with the world. Contribute to the efforts to resolve the pressing questions on this planet. You have studied the sweep of civilizations, the rise and fall of rulers, the battle of ideas, and the energy of individual efforts near and far. Now it is your turn. So where do you go, and how do you get there? Next slide, thank you. First off, it's important to know that sometimes you'll just get lost, or at least take unexpected detours. This photo was taken 20 years ago this month on a small island in Indonesia called Lombok. That's me on the right, a bit of a long hair, sitting with a college friend. I'd been a history major because I was curious about what had come before. When senior spring came around and I was in your position, I had no idea what I would do. I applied more or less on a whim for a consulting job and soon found myself working on a project at a big bank in Columbus, Ohio. It was cool. I learned a lot, paid some bills, but it wasn't for me. How to connect back to the wider world, I wondered. I got accepted to graduate school to study journalism, and in the months before going, packed a backpack and bought a ticket to Southeast Asia. My friend in the photo, Brooks Entwistle, also a history major, worked in finance then and still does. He is the chairman of Southeast Asia operations for Goldman Sachs. Brooks and I keep in touch, just traded emails last week. I suspect he has made more money in the first 4 months of this year than I have in my entire journalistic career. But I'm not bitter about that. I take this little detour into our lives to demonstrate the twists and turns that may wait ahead for you. Thank you. While Brooks has been with Goldman Sachs since college, he has taken breaks for business school, but also to engage with the world in an intensely personal way. He worked for a year for the United Nations as an election educator and monitor in Cambodia. He lived in a remote northeast jungle and hiked trails to villages, hanging information pamphlets and setting up radio transmitters, spreading the word of democracy on that country's long road from Khmer Rouge rule. He still has a deal with his wife and children that he gets 1 week off each year, more or less, to give back, as a monitor hoping to ensure free and fair elections in Liberia, for example. I have taken a more circuitous route. After grad school at UC Berkeley, I reported about local communities, first in Idaho, then Seattle. I did not leave the US for 5 years, writing instead about murder and mayhem, pumpkin patches and 4th of July parades, right in my own backyard. It wasn't until I was 29, in the midst of a domestic reporting career at the Seattle Times, that I began to feel, again, the pull of the world. So, I quit an otherwise stable and stimulating job. Parents, I'm not endorsing this, by the way. I'm just reporting the facts. So, let's turn for a minute to this guy, riding his motorized bike down a country road in Nishan, China, said to be the birthplace of Confucius. I was in Nishan to write about how the teachings of the ancient philosopher, cast aside by Mao Zedong and others, are being embraced again to counter China's increasingly capitalistic culture. Confucius said, "He whose heart is set upon goodness will dislike no one." Today, farmers in Nishan throw freshly harvested wheat onto the road so that passing vehicles crush it, separating kernel from chaff. This driver is just trying to commute home from work, but even he, who knows the place around him so well, must swerve and speed up, put on the brakes, and plow through piles of wheat. A year after quitting that Seattle job, I was on the streets of Belgrade, notebook and pen in hand, reporting about Slobodan Milosevic's fall from power, interviewing opposition activists trying to seize control of the police. From there, it was on to the coal mines of Ukraine and the alleyways of Egypt. So, I humbly offer a few pieces of advice. Always answer your gut when it nags at you to wonder about the world. Find your place, your way of contributing. Perhaps you will find a home in the seacoast and spend your life working and living here. Excellent. But look for ways to remain a global citizen, bringing awareness and ideas from elsewhere into your community. Perhaps you will teach or work in a nonprofit or go into business here or overseas. Great. Perhaps you will join the military or foreign service, traveling the world on behalf of the United States. Outstanding. But operate with an awareness to the grand responsibility such positions bring. No matter your path on this spectrum, wherever you find your place in the world, guard humility, respect difference, and consider, how do you want to use your energy and education to make this world a better place? Then, be nimble, be alert, seize the day when opportunities arise, be patient when they don't, because sooner or later they will, and commit always to engage with the world. Thank you. This effort will make things better for those in your neighborhood and perhaps for those on the other side of the planet, including this little baby girl, so young in this photo that she had not yet been given a name. I introduce her to you here because I want to end by asking you to ponder for a moment the span of a single life. Estrus, the photographer, and I were riding with the translator through a jungle in Cambodia on a rain-soaked, humid afternoon. After hours of rutted road, we came to a collection of huts and a small stand at which a man was selling water. We stopped, and the man explained to our translator that in a nearby hut, an old woman was dying. Family had gathered to bid her goodbye. One of the men came out and asked if we would enter to pay our respects. And we did. The woman lay silently on a mattress on the ground, motionless as family members held her hands. So much of what that woman had seen in her life had been determined by those near to her, family and friends, community members. But so much more had been determined from afar. In the late 1960s, Pol Pot had returned from Vietnam to this stretch of jungle to establish a base for what would become his Khmer Rouge regime. U.S. planes crossed the border from Vietnam on bombing raids. Craters still remain in the earth 50 years later. A move to democracy in the 1990s opened the ideas and economy of the province, drawing a trickle of tourists in the days that the old woman was dying. After a few minutes paying our respects, Estrus and I bowed and backed from the hut and rode another hour to the village that had been our destination. There, we met a midwife who explained that she was exhausted from delivering a baby the night before. She told us the baby was resting in a hut just down the lane. And this is the scene that we found when we entered that hut. Hot coals beneath the bed nursed mother and child with warmth. The baby wore snug pink mittens. Neighbors sat in a circle, quick with friendly conversation. New arrivals would place money in the baby's mittens, help for the journey ahead. And I ask you, what will happen in this world during this baby's life? During the life of your children, during these months and years ahead? You have grown so much during your time here at UNH. And now I say, keep engaging with the world, whatever passions you pursue, and wherever you may find your home. Take time to stand in silence in the hut of a dying woman. Take time to place a gift in the mittens of a newborn child. Good luck, and of course, congratulations.
Good afternoon, and I want to echo the congratulations, very well deserved for everyone in this room. Okay, so just a few announcements about the order of things. We're going to, of course, have our Sash ceremony or presentation. So after the Sash presentation, if you could please all assemble outside on the steps for a photograph, because we love to capture that moment. And after the group picture, please feel free to come back in to the room and start the lunch. We do ask that you allow students who are presenting this afternoon at the Undergraduate Research Conference to go first so that they can actually get on their way to doing their presentation. So, okay, so this is your last test. You could line up to the right of me in alphabetical order.
How are you doing, Greg?
Good, how are you? Good to see you.
Happy New Year.